Hey YouTube, this is Eddie's Tech Talk, and today is a new video and my first video back in quite some time, and I might produce a video or make something about where I've been and my direction for the channel and what I'm still passionate about, what I'm thinking about. And one of those things is obviously new phones, new things, all those things that it's always been, but I've thought a lot over the last year and a half, and probably longer, honestly, about environmental impact of these items, right? One of my hobbies, I just like getting the new phones every year. I like looking at those things typically and just seeing what's what. But there's obviously an environmental impact to that, and of course there's people that can't afford the newest, latest, and greatest phone. So is there a way to sort of combine those things, again, get maybe a older device but a refurbished one, nicer to the environment, that's a device that's already been produced, right, that you're making and getting new life out of. So I want to really look at that, and so today I'm going to be switching over to the iPhone SE 2020 from my Pixel 6. And if you followed my channel for any amount of time, you know that I've used Android exclusively since 2011, except for about a 6-month period. I think it was back in 2020 when I got this iPhone and used it for a little bit. So I want to switch back, see kind of what's going on here, and really evaluate, is the iPhone SE 2020 sort of worth consideration, or the SE 20, I think it was 2022 that they announced the last one, so because a lot of the things with this phone are the same with that phone. So I want to evaluate that because you can get this phone, the 2020 version. I've seen a couple deals pop up through like I think Total Wireless and some other MVNOs for about $100, I think it was, and then you can actually get this version, the same one I have, in 128 gigs. You can get that version from eBay for I think it's $200, refurbished with a warranty of sorts, and that's big, right? You're talking about an iPhone, right, which a lot of people really want an iPhone. You're talking about an accessible price point. You're talking about putting new life into, right, a piece of electronics that's already been produced, so that's more environmentally friendly than, of course, buying a new one. So I want to really evaluate this, test it out. I have Google Fi, so this is going to be kind of an all-in-one review. What's the SIM switching process like between these two? What's the, my iOS experience, kind of getting back into that for however long this sort of I don't know, challenge to myself goes. And then, of course, right, is this maybe worth your consideration in a refurbished environment or with, a certain carrier, or maybe it's one to skip, and we'll see. So let's get the SIM switched over. I'll kind of review that process, and then, right, I'll update it again with what I thought after the whole ordeal. Alright, so you can see that went pretty fast, right? We've got the Google Pixel up here keeping time, and so that was really, what, about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes? I mean, pretty short amount of time here. The only weird thing is when I went to apple.com here from LTE without Wi-Fi, it navigated to the page fine, loaded it fine, and then I got a pop-up saying it couldn't activate mobile network, so might take a second to settle in here, but I just moved the SIM card over, changed a couple things in the APN settings, which the app tells you exactly what to do. You don't have to be some kind of tech head pro to do that. But now we're switched over to the iPhone 2020 SE, and look, I'll be back in of course, a little bit of time, a couple weeks or a week for me probably, but for you, through the magic of editing, just an instant, and then we'll get a look at, what are my thoughts on iOS, what are my thoughts on, a device like this in 2023, the back half of 2023, and, should it be within your consideration refurbished, or, the new iPhone SE. We'll take a look, so see you in just a second. Alright, so I did use this for a little bit now, and I've got some impressions on it. Honestly, I didn't have to use it for that long in my mind to get a fair impression of really what's going on here with the iPhone SE 2020. And that's something I like about Apple products, is you kind of know within your first couple days with the device what you're getting, what the benefits are, what the limitations are, but really, that experience, quite frankly, this is a strength of Apple, doesn't change that much over time. Whereas on Android, again, I've been a decade-long user, sometimes that experience does change. Something that's really snappy day one or year one. By year two, and you're rounding year two of how old that phone is, even if you bought the phone more recently, quite frankly, I'll say it, I've seen some, experiences that don't hold up as well over time. And that's the biggest strength of the iPhone SE 2020, is that the experience does hold up very well over time, especially given that this is a lower range iPhone from 2020, the lowest range at the time. This holds up very well over time. The fact that I'm using a phone in this age bracket, I suppose, right? We're talking about a 3-year plus old phone. It's been really good. I mean, I think this phone came out early 2020, so, it's 3.5 years old now. Again, I've used Android over a decade. I can't think of an experience that has been as close to that out-of-the-box experience, or at least held up at least as well as it can over time, than a phone like this. And this is pretty emblematic of Apple, iOS, and iPhones. And the only real shortage I've noticed, and of course it might not demonstrate on camera, yeah, that opened up really good. And you can see, again, this did open up really quickly. Scrolling is fluid, all that's good. The only thing that didn't hold up as well that I did notably notice, of course, a single camera shooter on the back, and I'll put a photo I took at, unfortunately, my Michigan State Spartans loss over the weekend. Took a picture of the student section emptying out. We were under the stadium lights there, and just took a photo there. Decent lighting, it was getting to be dusk, and that photo's fine. It's okay. But the camera, of course, didn't age well in this SE 2020. The newer SE, I think, does have a tweaked camera, but I don't know that camera is going to be super great in 2023, heading into 2024 either. So that's something that I did notice. The couple photos I did take, that didn't hold up very well over time. As well as, I'll make a note. Oh, looks like we're editing the home screen. I'll make a note that apps do take longer to load than my Pixel 6, which is not a high-end Android processor even, and apps do take longer than I do observe. The other things I got used to, the other limitations of this device. I love the size of this device. I loved it before. I still love it now. This is about the same size as the iPhone mini, which, as announced at the Apple event, RIP iPhone mini. I love, love, love the iPhone mini. Same size here, just a way smaller screen, obviously, given the bezels, the antiquated design. And the screen resolution itself is low. I mean, it's pretty dang low, and I'll state that took some getting used to. That part went away. I did get used to it, the things look a little blurry. For the most part, that's fine. What I do notice, as soon as I go back to another phone or use something with a high refresh rate screen, I notice that immediately. So if I'm opening, I suppose clock's not the greatest example, but if I'm scrolling up and down, I'm going back and forth, I notice immediately the 90 hertz on my Pixel 6 versus the 60 hertz here. And then, of course, right, if you have a higher refresh rate phone you normally use or that you see, that's going to be apparent. So that was big. And should you buy this phone? No. Quite frankly, no. The new iPhone SE, perhaps, maybe, but I'm going to make an argument that maybe that's one to stay away from as well. I really wish what Apple would have done was give us an iPhone mini Pro. I would have bought that day one, but an iPhone mini SE kind of hybrid device, because the camera on this thing is aged, and I know they've tweaked it, and I haven't tested it. I know they've tweaked it with the newer iPhone SE, but I just think a screen to body ratio like this just doesn't hold up quite as well, and maybe you don't care. Maybe that's not what you're buying for a modern looking phone, but I think that the refresh rate holds it back, from contending with modern phones. The camera, of course, holds it back. On this one, the real reason I'm saying no, you shouldn't buy it, is I haven't used this phone exceptionally for a long amount of time, probably 8 months heavily over the couple years I've owned it, and the battery life is not great. And it wasn't great in 2020. It wasn't great when I bought it. So the battery life's not great, so I would stay away from a refurb because you just don't know what that battery is looking like. And yeah, so I think that's actually the biggest reason not to get one of these, is there's no 5G on the 2020, and the battery life is really bad. Other than that, quite frankly, things have held up very well. And I'm actually very impressed with the iPhone, and that's why I'm going to keep it in my pocket for a little while longer. But I think no 5G, that's a big thing, as more places are getting 5G, 4G connections are, I think we're going to get a transition period, not that soon, but where, hey, I've got a 3G phone and 4G's out. Well, that 3G phone is just is heading rapidly towards, not being useful anymore, right? We were all lived through that. So same thing here. I wouldn't buy a phone without 5G in 2023. So I would say 5G puts this on the no list. Camera puts this on the no list. But quite frankly, and the battery, those are big no's for me. But other than that, things have been really good, and I've actually been really surprised by it. I love the size of the phone. I love the lightness. It's just very light in the hand to hold this phone. So look, should you buy the iPhone SE 2023, right? That removes my big gripe around no 5G. That iPhone has 5G. And I'm going to say maybe. If you get a good deal on one, if you get a good carrier deal on one, and that's how you choose to buy your phones, I typically don't, but if that's how you do it, that might be a good way to go to get into the iOS Apple ecosystem, as well as, if you believe Apple, the SE, the new one, has a more efficient processor. To my knowledge, I don't think the battery has grown, so same dimensions, same footprint inside, right, with all that. This is an old Apple design, so I think the battery size is the same. They couldn't adjust that within the body itself, but the processor is more power efficient, so you're going to get longer battery life. So that removes my major gripes, and I know they tweaked the camera. Quite frankly, I'm just not buying that the camera tweaks are enough to make it a usable phone in 2023, 2024. So with that said, again, iPhone SE 2020, I'm going to say stay away. But does this make you want to really evaluate, that new iPhone SE? Or are you like me, someone who wanted to just kind of try out the Apple ecosystem? And that's a great phone to buy for that. If it's your second phone, your backup phone, I think the iPhone SE 2023 is a good choice. But as a primary phone, I just don't know about it. What do you guys think of the SE 2020 and the newer iPhone SE as well? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one.